So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the emotions, thoughts, feelings, and things that you have to work through and go through when you go through something like shaken baby syndrome and any trauma, really. And so I want to do this to help spread awareness and just to also, if you are someone who's went through something like that, and even if it's not shaken baby syndrome, just trauma, then you might be able to relate to this video and the feelings and thoughts that I had. So I always just like to be transparent and just talk about our story in hopes of spreading awareness. So I'm gonna get into that now. So I had a lot of immediate anger after I found out my daughter was shaken, and anger is something that never goes away about that. I have a lot of righteous anger towards all child abuse, but when it comes to my own daughter suffering shaken baby syndrome, there was a lot of anger that I had to work through towards people, towards my ex-husband who was blamed for shaking her, towards myself for, allowing her to be in his care and things like that. I had to work through, there was just anger towards a lot of different things and people, and, even towards God at sometimes for allowing that to happen. And so, there was just a lot of things that I had to work through with anger. And some of the things I did to work through anger was I spent a lot of time in prayer. I spent a lot of time in learning about how to forgive people and, digging deep into the Bible and what it says about forgiveness. And, you can get caught up in anger whenever you are looking at it from the world's perspective. Because if I had just went and talked to most people, they would have said, oh, you have a right to be angry. Like, you should be angry. There's no way you cannot be angry. And so, anger really can destroy you on the inside and cause a lot of turmoil and, waste a lot of time, because anger doesn't necessarily hurt the other person. Unforgiveness, it hurts you mostly. My ex-husband had no idea if I was angry or not forgiving him. And so, I had to do a lot of inner work and go to God for the help and just surrender it to Him. And so that was really how I got through that anger and remind myself over and over and over. I had to memorize a lot of Bible verses. I had to tape them up on sticky notes to remind myself, I'm not going to let anger control me. I'm not going to let unforgiveness control my heart, my thoughts, my actions, things like that. And then I was in denial a lot. So going through something so traumatic, your brain can just kind of like shut down and be like, nope, not going to believe it. This ain't happening. We're going to go into defense mode and shutdown mode, and we're just going to pretend this isn't even happening. And so I had to go through a lot of, work mentally to come out of denial, to be like, this is my life now. I am a special needs single mom, basically overnight. And I have got to get through this. I've got to be here for both of my children. I had an older child and the one who was shaken, who was younger. And they need me to show up for them. I need me. I'm providing for them. All of these things. And so I went through a lot of denial and had to come out of denial to even accept that my ex-husband did shake her and that it wasn't just the doctors making a mistake. Because for a while, I was in so much denial that I didn't want to believe the doctors. I was like, you're wrong. I'm going to go get second opinions. I got second, third opinions from like different medical facilities in different states to make sure she was actually shaken, because I was in that denial of I not believing this. And it was hard to believe that anyone could shake a child, much less my own now ex-husband. And so also denial comes with just like the death of a child too. So she did pass away in 2020, 3 years after she was shaken. And so I had to go through a lot of like, she's really gone. It felt like, oh, she's just at the hospital. That was denial coming up again. Oh, I go into her room, she's not there. My brain immediately wanted to protect me and be like, oh, she's just at the hospital. It's okay. She'll be back. There was a lot of denial I had to work through with that too. And then going through all of that confusion and disbelief, which is kind of like denial, but the confusion of how can this happen? This can't happen. This doesn't exist. There's just so much confusion of how could you shake a baby? And like just going through that over and over in my head, just being so confused as how this could happen. And And then I was still thankful she was alive, while also wondering why God would bring her back, because she did code at the very beginning. And then she came back after 20 minutes of no pulse. And the only reason they kept going was because they were waiting on me to get to the hospital. So they didn't want to just let her go. They wanted me to have a chance to say goodbye. So they did compressions for 20 minutes by the time that I got in there, say goodbye, and then her pulse came back. And so, I was thankful that she was still with me and that she didn't die that day, that as a 3-month-old baby who had just been shaken, she lived for 3 years. And throughout that 3 years of her life, she suffered so much, but also so much good came from her life in those 3 years. So much good. I can't even go into that on this video because it would take forever. But God could handle me asking that. He could say, God, there's multiple times I'm like, God, why did you even bring her back? Why would you let her suffer like this? If you knew she was going to just suffer, why would you, let her have the pulse again? Like, why wouldn't you just let her have gone on to heaven with you? And he can handle those kinds of, questions and prayers. And so he helped me find peace in that, and knowing that there was a plan for that his ways are not my ways. And, there are times that I still wonder that, but then I'm also just very thankful for her life at the same time. So it's kind of a mix of those. And then it was just a lot of feelings of hopeless yet hopeful. And that's a weird place to be in, where you feel so hopeless, but at the same time you're hopeful. And so a lot of the hopelessness that I felt was, my child will never walk, never talk, never eat, never be normal, never have an opportunity to live very long, because her prognosis was she would eventually pass away, probably at a young age. And so the hope was she would be fully healed one day, and she would be in heaven and have a wonderful life and be able to walk and talk and all those things in heaven. And I held on to that hope, and it did come true. I think it's almost been 3 years this year that she went to heaven. And so that was the hope that I held on to, and also that I will see her again, and know I'll see her again. And so there was so much heartache. Watching your child like that, even just day to day, is hard to just look at. You go into the child's room, my daughter's room, and it's just full of heartache sometimes. And it didn't feel like that every single time I looked at her, but if I sat and thought about the situation a lot, just really deeply thinking about it, it was caused a lot of heartache. Fear of the unknown. There's so many unknowns. Is she going to go to the hospital today? Is she going to be okay? Is she going to make it out of the hospital this time? Lots of unknowns. And then I questioned if I was doing enough. So I was a licensed massage therapist, and I would even question, am I doing enough for her? Should I be massaging her every single day? Would that help with pain? There was a lot of things of am I doing enough? And, the answer was yes. And I still look back and I'm like, you're always going to have regrets when someone passes away. I wish I would have spent more time with her. I spent tons of time with her, but there always could have been more time. And so you're going to have little regrets like that if you do lose someone close to you. But for me, I had to work through, am I enough? And yes, I am enough, because even when I'm not enough, God's enough, and he would give me strength. And, because God's enough, I could be enough. And then just pure exhaustion all the time, being a caregiver. And then joy. It's so weird to be how could you be joyful about the situation? But just being in there with her, and the times that she didn't seem to be in pain, and just holding her, and I can just still just remember how it felt to be near her, and it just felt joy. I love you so much. I'm so thankful for you. And then after she passed away, I felt so much intense sorrow. I had to work through sorrow, anguish that I have never experienced in my life. I've lost a father at 13 years old, who I was very close to, and never experienced such deep anguish as losing a child. But also at the same time peace, because I was she's in heaven. Oh my gosh, I wanted this for her. Can you imagine the celebration right now of her walking in? So much peace and so much joy at the same time of being in such deep anguish. And then, still now I have to work through anger, resentment, missing her, And the anger and resentment comes from just, she should be here, and because of my ex-husband's choices, she's not here. And I still have to work through that anger and forgive over and over to help me to just, you know, live life every day and not be stuck in resentment and, you know, anger and all those things, because it doesn't hurt the other person, it hurts you. And so you have to figure out a way to get through that. But, you know, comment your thoughts below if you have any thoughts after this video. I like to talk about these things. I just want to spread awareness. I want people to feel like they're not alone if they're going through something similar. And I'll see you on the next video.